For the past months, all countries around the world are trying their best in order to flatten the coronavirus curve, and that is by following the health protocols which are implemented by the government. But there are certain countries that was able to successfully flatten the coronavirus curve. With that said, these are the 4 countries that were able to do so. Number 1, New Zealand.
New Zealand ranks first place when it comes to its COVID-19 response. The country started implementing preventive measures just 3 days after the World Health Organization declared the coronavirus outbreak a public health emergency last January 30, 2020.
In the weeks that followed, New Zealand's government declared an alert level 4 lockdown, and the entire country, aside from some essential workers, were required to self-quarantine at home. After 5 weeks, the lockdown was lifted from level 4 to 3.
On June 8, 103 days after the first COVID-19 case, New Zealand lifted restrictions to an alert level 1 and declared that the country was free of the virus.
The second country that was able to flatten the coronavirus curve is no other than Taiwan.
Taiwan has confirmed 451 COVID-19 cases and 7 deaths in a population out of the total population, which is 23.7 million. That shows how successful they have been at both prevention and control. Everything is mostly reopened, and the only signs of COVID-19 are the frequent temperature checks and expectation to wear masks on the subway.
A lot of Taiwanese are already traveling internally for vacations, including visiting restaurants, bars, and beaches, and most are back to the office. What is more amazing about Taiwan is that it is close to China and it could have been a total disaster.
Moreover, many Taiwanese people said that key lesson for the rest of the world is that leadership matters. Taiwan's government had a strong plan for managing a pandemic, and there were no exception to the rules. They have hired professionals which are trained for years in order to prepare the country for this.
Furthermore, in Taiwan, there was easy access to almost free and rapid testing centers. There's also enforcement for those who don't follow the rules. Taiwan also has community-oriented mentality which helped their community to flatten the corona curve.
South Korea was also able to flatten the curve.
During the first few weeks of the pandemic, South Korea had one of the largest outbreaks outside China. However, the country managed to slow the spread of new COVID-19 cases without any lockdowns.
With that in mind, how did they do it?
South Korea has one of the most excellent models for mass testing, which is the only way to contain the outbreak. What the government did was to test more than 20,000 people daily and enforces isolation and widespread contact tracing in order to stop transmission. People who test positive are quarantined in COVID-19 special units and treated.
South Korea focuses attention on treating people with severe symptoms and therefore less likelihood of recovery, rather than focusing on people with mild symptoms.
Furthermore, they believe that extensive testing is a crucial step in identifying the state of infection in the country, where the outbreaks are taking place, who is infected and who is not. Most importantly, the whole country of South Korea was able to strictly follow the health protocols which are implemented by their government, which really helped their country to flatten the curve.
And last but not the least, we have Thailand.
Thailand has recorded over 3,083 infections and 57 deaths, with a 96% recovery rate. At the height of the pandemic in March and April, the country implemented a partial lockdown. Public and private establishments and businesses were also closed.
Because the country have an issue about the lack of funds, public health authorities did not simply rely on mass testing, but instead they had an aggressive strategy of contact tracing, quarantining those who tested positive and hospitalizing patients with serious symptoms. In addition, they have also required international travelers to self-isolate, with some being confined to government quarantine centers.
The battle for coronavirus in the country was mainly led by public health officials who persuaded the people to use face masks and follow health protocols. They also employed hundreds of thousands of village health volunteers to monitor cases of coronavirus.
From the countries that were mentioned earlier, we do hope that our country, which is the Philippines, will be able to flatten the curve soon. As part of this community, we must also follow the health protocols strictly, such as to wear face mask, face shield, observe social distancing, and as much as possible to stay at home.
That is all for today, and I hope you guys have learned something. We are the Group 3 of Grade 11 STEM Kugler B. Thank you for watching and always stay safe.